Welcome to An Aries and Pisces Walk Into a Coffee Shop, the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Bridget, she, her.
And I'm Tiffany, she, her. This is a podcast where two friends let go of perfectionism and talk unedited.
Hi.
Hi.
It's such a pleasure to see you. Yeah, today has been one of those days of like, I just don't feel like anything. I don't feel like doing anything. And everything feels like a slog.
Mm-hmm.
And so then this morning I was like, well, what do I even like want to do? It was one of those moments of like nothing feels fun. Like what would even feel fun or enjoyable, or like I might even want to like try to do or enjoy or like anything. Like nothing nothing sounds good. But then I was like, oh my God, I get to talk to Tiffany this afternoon. Okay. If I can just make it to here, then like yeah, so
Makes me so happy to hear.
I am so glad to be here.
And I really love that juxtaposition because I spent my morning, well, at work, but because I work at the computer, I listen to things often throughout the day.
Mm.
And I was listening to We Can Do Hard Things with
Mm-hmm.
Glennon and Abby and her sister. And this recent episode, it's kind of like a part two, but you can listen to them standalone about delight and
Oh,
focusing on delight, which is something we've talked about a bunch in various ways, like delight or joy or like gratitude, shifting
yeah.
your focus. And I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, what do I want to be paying attention to? Because right now, it's very easy to pay attention to everything that's going wrong, feels not good, is annoying, da 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 da. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's balance.
Right.
And then hearing you talk about what would even be fun,
Yeah.
very relatable. And because of that, I spent this morning listening to that episode where, because they talked to an expert, someone that wrote a book on delight, can't remember the name at all,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a nice conversation. And then this episode that I was just listening to is just them three talking together about things that they found delightful, like
Okay.
practicing what they were learning
Are they
from
new? Is it
that.
new episodes?
Mm-hmm.
New
The
right
last
now?
two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Just went out.
I'll have to check those out. Yeah, because that's a definite like big thing of focus lately, but it feels like, and I don't know if it's because of I'm also having these feelings in my business
Mm-hmm.
of like, what am I even doing? Like, what do I
Right.
even want to do? Like, what direction do I want to go in? It just feels like this year has been such a, I don't know if like upheaval is the right word, but like, or maybe more of like a downheaval.
Can I offer can I offer something and you let me know if
Yes.
maybe you want it?
Yeah.
Um, when you said upheaval, my thought was growing pain.
Hmm. I'll tell you what it's I'm also then wondering about like words, right? And my word of the year being like unhinged,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody giving me another like framing of the word unhinged in like an actual like hinge of a door, and like unhinging like the door, right? Like taking the door off, like opening things up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And okay, so what word did you just say?
Growing pain.
Growing pains. Yes, so it feels like it is definitely growing pains, but in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Right.
Like of that, like everything fell off. Like everything's just falling off and like not picking up. But I have been growing in like very like in other ways, right? Of all of like the lack and the scarcity and the money stuff and the um pivoting and right, like
Yeah.
changing gears and doing other things and learning other things. And so yes, I think it is a lot of I think it's growing pains, and I think it's also like setting the stage or like foundation for the next
Hmm.
season or whatever the next thing is. But right now it feels like I have been just like it feels like I've just been like going down.
Right.
But if I look at the data, if
Hmm.
I look at what I've actually been doing, I've
Right.
still like I've been doing so much, and I've been doing so
Oh,
many
yes.
like other things and creating so many other things. And I think I just like get so caught up in the whole like monetary part of it that if I'm not bringing
Right.
in a certain like monetary amount, then I'm still like quote unquote failing.
Right.
And that has been really hard for me to like uncouple from, but I'm chipping away at it.
Yeah. Progress.
Yeah.
Two things popped in my head. One is, you know how certain house plants will drop off a bunch of leaves, and then in the center, all of a sudden, a bunch of new leaves will come up after all the other
Hmm.
ones just fell away?
Okay. Mhm.
That was the first image that popped in my head while you were talking.
Thank you.
I'm saying it to you because I also need it. Because I am also feeling that weird, like, growing pains. It's so strange to hold this conviction that I know I am doing the things I should be doing. It feels like right action at right time, and it sucks. And I always kind of thought, well, if I'm doing the right thing at the right time and I know that, then that would feel good enough to make the suck not suck. And that's not
Oh.
right. It just
Oh.
still sucks, even if you know it's all correct.
Yeah. I just got like nervous, like little like anxiety flutters in my chest, which was like, "Amen, Tiffany. That's the truth."
Yeah, it does feel truth, and I don't love it. And I'm trying to make peace with it
Uh-huh.
because logically I know I'm doing good. Bodily, I feel like this is death. And then because of who I am as a person, I'm like, well, yeah, duh, things need to die,
Mhm.
obviously. I
Yeah.
can't remember who was talking about it. It must have been on a podcast. I'm wondering if it was the 12th house, where someone I was listening to recently was saying something about how things that fall away and die are compost.
Oh.
And I really liked that. And I forgot I heard that until I just started talking right now. I should have written that down. I'm going to write that down later because
Yeah.
I love that metaphor. It makes it feel less grief stricken.
Mhm.
Like, ooh, it's challenging scarcity mindsets. Like, oh, I'm not like losing or like lacking. It's just these things need to go through a transformation, and they're
Mhm.
just going to nourish the thing that's coming next. I don't know what the next thing is though, so that's nerve wracking. I assume that you also have that.
That's the really that's the really hard part. I really like this um thinking about that as the compost, and it's
Hmm.
really making me really sad for our compost situation outside because I we still have yet to set up our new bin after having to get rid of the last one because of the
Yeah.
rodents. Um, but I think that that's maybe it's making me like more excited for that. I don't know. Things feel like jumbled in my brain right now, but it is
Hmm.
really hard for me when I don't know what the thing is next. And I forget like what quote or poem or something that I read that says it says something about like not needing to know what the next thing is. It's just like taking steps
What is that?
forward. I know, like, just taking the steps forward, and I'm like, "Well, fuck, I'm doing that, but I don't know where I just wanna know where it's leading." Like, I just wanna know, like, where
Mhm.
it's going, and sometimes I feel like I have more of, like, an inkling, and sometimes I feel like I'm walking in pitch black, and right
Mhm.
now I think it feels more like I'm just walking in the dark,
Mhm.
and And then I was also thinking about this thing that we've talked about before about just making a decision and like
Mhm.
any decision is going to be like a fine decision, right? Like
Right.
decision is better than no decision at all. All you have to do is decide and then you see what happens. You don't have to
Right.
worry about making like the exact perfect right decision. You just have to make one and then see. And then that was making me think about that of like, I'm like, well, I don't know where I want to go next. I don't know what I want to do next. I don't know what seems fun or exciting or what I want to pursue. And then I was like, well, Bridget, maybe you just have to pick something. And maybe it's not that like what feels fun to me to do right now, but maybe it's like what feels interesting enough to try out that could maybe be fun. And I'll like see if it's fun once I try it.
Yes. Mhm. I just revisited some human design stuff
Ooh.
because of you. And literally last night, because I couldn't sleep, and I did the thing I always tell myself, don't do. I got on my phone.
Uh-huh.
Um,
This is
but
why this is why I sleep with my phone in a different room.
well, normally I have better self-control. And I do like having my phone nearby because I do often fall asleep to like different meditations, which I do find really helpful.
Mhm.
But last night I just wasn't having it. My brain was just spun. And so I spinned. And then I ended up reading about human design. I don't remember why that popped in, but it did. And I was just reading about, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to be clear about that because
Uh-huh.
I don't understand the channels and all the lines and the open and the closed and the numbers. And it makes no sense
I
holistically
I
or
only can I say that I only barely understand some of that.
but
I
I
don't
just
think
was
it
doing some Googling. Like I looked at
yeah.
my chart and I was like, I have no idea what that is, but I like human design and then like the little thing that was on the chart synopsis.
Mhm.
Again, words are hard this week. Um anyway, I kind of forget what part of the chart it was talking about, but something about experimenting and it was
Mhm.
saying that basically the thing that I'm most annoyed about myself is correct, which is I feel like I just have to try and to do things
Yeah.
to figure out stuff.
Yeah.
No one can tell me anything. I
Yeah.
cannot be told. It cannot be learned until I just start doing some stuff
Yeah.
and find out the hard way. And what you're talking about makes me think of that, where it's like, because I do get caught in this, because I want to, the idea of being told or thinking something through first sounds supportive in
Mhm.
theory to me.
Mhm.
It feels safer. And then the human design Google rabbit hole I fell in said, yeah, sorry, you don't get that. It's just, you can't be told.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
So
fuck.
yeah. Can I tell you, I know what that part of your chart is, because
Great.
I also have it. It's your third line in your profile. So your profile is a 3-5, and that's you're
Okay.
describing the 3 part of it right now.
Okay.
My profile is a 1-3. So
Oh, so you also have a
I
three.
also have that 3, but ours are like switched where my 3 is I fuck if I can remember this, like the first one of the lines is like how it seems to me kind of like your like rising sign and like
Okay.
moods like one of the lines is like how you appear to other people, like how other people see you, and then one of the lines is like how you think of yourself.
Oh, yes, this makes sense in astrological terms to me.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I can't off the top of my head remember which number is which, but we
Okay.
both have it. So it's the same like essence of that, of like, yeah, experimenting. And like, you're not going to learn it by reading, you're going to learn by like doing.
I don't like that for me. I'm just gonna be really honest. I don't like that because what I like, which probably makes sense why everything's so hard. What I really love is reading about a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love reading incessantly about a thing,
Mm-hmm.
watching videos, listening to podcasts. I want to do and find out.
I know.
I'm afraid to fuck around.
I know. Tiffany, might I just say to you that this could be one of the reasons why we get on so well is because I'm just the exact same. Like, I want to research it. I want to know everything that I can know about it. I
Yeah.
think this also might feed into like perfectionism of
Ooh,
like,
good point.
of wanting to know that I am going to do something like perfectly well and I'm not going to make a
Mhm.
mistake or I'm not going to have to go back and do it again, expend my energy or I want to
Right.
know that I'm right, I'm
Yep.
choosing the right choice. But none of that stuff matters or exists. It's all about learning through like doing and trying and that is fucking hard.
It's so interesting to hold this paradox in my brain because when I distance myself from that, I've given that advice to people before. Like, I
Mm.
understand its value. I admire other people that do it, and I want nothing to do with it for myself, which isn't entirely true either. But it's like the strong feeling of like resistance or scared that I have makes it sound like I never want to do that. It's not
Uh-huh.
true. I do it all the time
Yeah.
because I guess I can't escape myself. I just have to. Otherwise, I wouldn't be alive if I
Hmm.
didn't. But man, I'm having a resistance to it right now. And it does have a lot to do, I think, with that perfectionism thing because it's like a self protection of not, well, like, I guess being hurt in a bunch of different ways. Like, I don't want to be hurt in a bodily way, but also like an emotional way is just more scary, in fact. But I've always been like that. Like, even since I was a kid, had some of my earliest memories are being super anxious because I was afraid of trying a thing and getting hurt, whether that was physically or emotionally.
Hmm.
And aren't we just all little babies in these big overgrown bodies?
What a little baby. We
Oh,
are. We are.
can I tell you
I'm
what
like I am just elated to hear that you were looking into more human design things.
I'm, you know what part of it is? Again, resistance, where I'm like, this is so convoluted and
It
confusing
is.
to me,
It
and I'm
is.
really frustrated. And then I'm like, well, maybe it's just not for me then. And
Hmm.
then every once in a while, you'll send me something, or a couple of the accounts I follow will like post something, and I'm in tears. Like, I feel so seen. Explain something that I have just, there's like brick walls in my life that I'm just bashing my face against over and over and being like, why the fuck is this wall still here? And then something in human design will be like, this is why. This is what,
Mm.
here's all the bricks. This is what's going on. And I'm like, fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not broken. Other people are dealing with similar things. It just like adds a little, ooh, this is what it's like. It's like I was looking out with like a blurry vision and someone like put a lens in front of my face and like I
Mm.
saw the shape of the thing, but then like something in human design will like put a lens in front and there's like, oh, all the edges are a little bit crisper.
Mm.
And I'm just like, oh, that's what's happening. That's this pattern. That's this dynamic. That's why. things are so hard.
Yeah, I think that human design's definitely done that for me. There's definitely like a good chunks of it that have been those those moments. And also, can I just say that because I can't stop my mind from going there, but I'm like, how do people come up with this shit? Human design, astrology, numerology, fucking enneagram. I don't know. Like, who comes up with that? Like, that like the three line means this, and these specific people have this. Or if you're an Aries sun, this. Or if you're Virgo moon, this. Like, and that it just applies. Like, who the fuck? That's so much
I think
information.
they were.
It's right.
I mean, I can't answer it for astrology because it's a little out of my depth and history is long. But I think the 12th House podcast does have some episodes exploring that human design origin story.
Which that is kind of whack.
Yeah, and that's why I like the 12th house because they're like, look, this has helped so much.
Uh-huh.
Side eye
Yeah.
at how
Yeah.
it kind of came to be and like let's examine that. And that made me feel very what is that? Relief?
Mm.
Maybe?
Hmm.
Because sometimes when you are exploring something and it almost feels like you have to buy in completely to even look into it or like use it. Does that make sense?
Maybe it's on the cusp of making sense.
Okay. Let me see if I can try to like tease it out a little bit. There's sometimes, okay, so sometimes it's skepticism. I've, it doesn't seem like it from the outside looking in, I'm sure, because of my witchiness and my conviction in things having all this like interconnectedness. Like I'm finding connections all the time where a lot of people are being like, you're reaching. That's just coincidence, yada, yada, yada. And I used to also think that way. Like I rejected myself for years. I went through a whole phase of feeling like I was being silly or ridiculous because I just had an instinctual belief in a lot of magical things. And then I felt like you have to grow up and be part of the world and put away all of this like nonsense. And then I figured out like over time, luckily pretty quickly, that all those things can be true at once. I can weave them together. But I am a skeptic. Like like my first go-to when I hear about something or look at something is go, I don't know. Like I get uncomfortable first.
Hmm.
And then I kind of have to like choose to open up and be like, or let's just look at it. And human design was a little bit like that.
Hmm.
It I think my doorway into it was astrology because by the time I found human design, I was very much into how useful astrology is for me and others. And it's not like a perfect system because human beings are human beings and circumstances are circumstances and time isn't real. So I think
Hmm.
like it manifests in a bunch of different ways, but I find it a really useful tool to think about things. And so I was like, let's bring that to this human design thing. And there is sometimes when I'm looking into things, there's people that have such an unshakable conviction about their thing
Mm.
that it feels like I have to have an unshakable conviction to even start learning or using some of the things in it.
Mm.
Like groupthink. And I don't like that. Like I don't want to feel like I have to like prescribe or just accept things without questioning.
Hmm.
And sometimes those resources or those creators kind of act like that. Like they just, this is the way it is because it is. And then
Mm.
if you are questioning it, or if you have doubts, it's kind of like,
Then it's not for you. Or
yeah,
like, or do you get this in your head that like, then there's something wrong with you because it's not working for you. And this is how it is. So it obviously should work for you in this way. That's what happens in my head.
I don't think I have that all the time. Do I have that some of the time? If this isn't working for me, then there's something wrong with me instead of something wrong with the system.
Mhm.
No,
That's,
I tend to be like, fuck the system.
mm,
But I think that's because of some other stuff I have going on. You know that I can't be told? I think that
mhm.
goes further than just those experimental lines. I think that there's something deep within me that just says that, yeah, I have to fuck around and find out. I can't be told anything,
It's
even if it's
your,
good for me, which is
yeah,
annoying.
it's your inner rebel archetype.
Oh, hell. Yeah, I think so.
I think for me, that's so interesting to think about. Like, I love the rebel archetype. Like, I'm like, yes, I want to be the rebel archetype. But then, and we've talked about this before, the whole like Virgo moon of it all. And like,
Sure.
I don't know if that's necessarily like doing things by the book, but like, is that something else? Or very like rule centric? Is that like more Capricorn?
That is very Capricorn,
I
yeah.
think that's all the other Capricorn. I've had like three other Capricorns in my chart or something.
Yeah,
Um,
I have that Capricorn heavy chart too.
yeah.
We do get
So
along really well.
so there's that part of me that is like, um, but these are the rules. This is the system. This is how you do the thing. This is how the thing works. This is how
Yep.
it's efficient.
Yes, this
And
is very Capricorn energy. Uh-huh.
and then there's the like me that's like, but that's not working for me. Like, fuck all of that. And I have
Mhm.
these two that like they butt against each other within me, which is really hard
Yes.
because I am very much like, nope, I don't fit in and I don't feel like I fit in. And
Mhm.
that's not the way that is working for me. And I'm going to do things and challenge things and do them in a way that works for me. And maybe this is about being in your mid 30s, but maybe this is a whole lot of like self-acceptance, right? Self-acceptance in all of the ways that I am not neurotypical or typical or whatever the societal norms, um and just like accepting that, where maybe like the first part of my life I was trying so hard to fit in that I was like rejecting it and like really trying to
Yes.
make the rules and things work
Yes.
for me when I knew that they didn't. And now I'm
Hmm.
like breaking from that. And
Yes. I take back what I said earlier. I do have that thing of, oh no, what's wrong with me? I'm broken.
mm,
So my journey with that is, as a child, I was like, none of this shit makes sense. What the fuck? But you're a kid, so you kind of get
yeah.
told.
Yeah.
That's your whole job as a child, is to be told things and then somehow assimilate. And so I think I always had that, this doesn't make sense, this isn't correct, or like I needed it. I always want to know the why. Explain it
Hmm.
to me. And a lot of
Hmm.
times you don't get that, because a lot of things in our society, if you explained it long enough, you're like, oh, this is not right.
Yeah.
Humans shouldn't live like this.
Yeah.
Um, but I got conditioned. So then I did have, I think this is where a lot of like my self esteem, self worth stuff comes from. Because then I had years of being like, okay, something's wrong with me. I need to fix me to fit into this.
Hmm.
And then, I mean, to be quite frank, that almost killed me. And so then
Hmm.
the rebel came back and was like, or fuck these systems. And this is not how any human should live. And you are fine because you are a human humaning. And it's the system that doesn't allow you to human. And you're not the only one suffering.
Mhm.
Like, I felt like I was for the longest time. But especially as an adult looking back, even at the people who seemed to be working within the system well, I can see the cracks in the facade now that I have
Mhm.
more perspective. And I'm like, no one's happy living in capitalism and white supremacy colonialism land. Like, no one is benefiting,
Yeah.
even when it looks like they are. Underneath, they are not. And so I've leaned into that really hard. And I don't remember if I sent it to you or not, but recently I watched a video that spoke deep into my soul because it's something that I've been practicing ever since well, a couple of different sources, but ever since I read The Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hersey, that really solidified the practice for me that when I am finding I'm getting down on myself for a thing, I start reframing it instead of being a me problem, being a systemic problem. And it
Mhm.
doesn't solve it, but it does give me a little bit of room and like
Mhm.
compassion for myself where if I'm finding that I'm spinning out about something to do with hustle and like pushing myself and working harder, I'm like, instead of just being like, I'm lazy or I should be able to, whatever the script is that day, it's like, oh wow, that internalized capitalism's really popping off today. And like prescribe it to the system that it belongs to instead of like a character flaw in me,
Mhm.
which has been really helpful. And then I kind of lost the practice a little bit because I want to be able to do certain things. And I get frustrated when I'm too tired or like my mental health is just like taking up a lot of energy. Um, and holding that, yeah, I want to be different and I'm not. And also it's okay.
Mhm.
That whole just being thing, it's really tripping me up.
It is. It is. It's hard. And yeah, I think you just sent me that video yesterday. I don't remember the person's Instagram account, but I had seen it in the past. I can save the link to it. Um but yeah, that made me think of um the a thing that I have been practicing in my head of like when I notice that I might want to say something like I'm like beating myself up or
Mm,
even the phrase to me right now like the inner critic of thinking of that as like of me as my inner critic like that's not
mm,
jiving with me right now um because like the one thing that we've been talking about in therapy which I think I mentioned this to you but it's that like that inner critic voice beating up like thoughts in
mm-hmm.
my head the one day my therapist asked me like she's like do you believe that and I was
Mm-hmm.
like what and then I like thought about it and I was like well no right like we've done all this
Yep.
work around this and I'm like no I don't and then I was like wait a second I can trace that directly back to like where I have picked that up in my life
Yeah, it's someone else's voice
it's not my
masquerading as
voice
your own.
yeah and then
Mm-hmm.
she was like yeah, now that's like in my head to the point where I'm like, I'm not beating myself up. All of those other voices and the conditioning and the society and everything, like all of that is running rampant in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't it's not my inner critic. It's like the inner critic of my life experience.
Yeah, it's an infiltrator.
Yeah. Yeah, and so now I'm more like, well, okay, when those things are popping off in my head, which they're fucking popping off like real hard lately,
Mm,
I have been trying to think of like, well, maybe this is more of like, I'm not beating myself up. I'm dealing with all of this from outside sources. And all I need to do is like stand up for myself or stick up for myself or remind myself what I do believe in or like lean into those like the gratitude and joy moments
Mm-hmm.
from before, right? So like I'm keeping this joy log and this gratitude and joy journal. Okay, just refer back to that. Refer back to like the little tiny things I'm proud of and delighted in, and like those are the things that matter to me, not these other
Right.
things. Like, and it feels nice to me to be able to separate myself from that. Like you were saying, to like separate
Right.
yourself and call out the systemic bullshit that we live in
Mm-hmm.
and be like, that's the actual problem. So for me, it's like those, I'm not beating myself up.
Yep.
Like those other people are beating me up and I'm not going to do it anymore. Like I don't feel like
Yeah.
doing it anymore. Like, and that's a cool like choice, talking about making choices. Like that's a cool like choice to make, to just be
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Yes. That. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The idea of doing all of that good work, and then a conversation I just recently had with multiple people is the idea of then not caring what others have to say about it.
Hmm.
I think is what I am, the spiral staircase thing. I think this is like another level for me, is that I'm getting closer to what you're talking about, where it's like this, like I said, like this isn't me, this is this. And finding a little bit more room and peace and like lessening those negative spin outs, but then coming against the disapproval of other individuals that maybe have
Hmm.
internalized those things, or like organizations, professional work environments,
Right.
whatever it may be, kind of pushing against it. That is the next level for me. I've been lucky enough that I have found ways to find groups of people that support. I mean, individuals like yourself, obviously, but even just like the burlesque community that I found
Mhm.
out here is a good example. My belly dance community I had when I lived in Ohio, like groups of people that think the way that I do has helped. Um, but man, do I care what other people think, especially if it's people like I actually care about for whatever reason, whether it's because they're paying me money to do a job or people I care about like in an interpersonal way. It's really hard to combat when there's any kind of pushback. So that's the next level of standing in my conviction and doing the things anyway.
Mhm.
This goes back to the very beginning of the conversation. I know I'm doing the right thing at the right time, and sometimes it still sucks.
Yeah.
I feel like I should get rewarded. I don't want it to suck.
Yeah. But like, maybe the reward is in the like, okay, yeah, and I'm doing this thing and it sucks and I'm doing it anyway. And fuck
Yeah.
y'all. I made my decision. Look at me doing it, even though it sucks.
Even though it sucks.
You look at me doing it even though it sucks. It made me think of I
Yeah.
don't fucking know why. Maybe because we just watched the Mario movie and it was a lot of
I
fun,
haven't
but
seen it.
I'm just thinking of like you keep talking about like the next level on like the staircase, but in my mind all I can see is Mario blocks
Yeah,
and
sure.
like
That
jumping
works.
up and but I'm like, well, Tiffany, just jump off that last block onto the flagpole and like ride it down, get your flag. Like you did it, you made it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's your reward. Like it sucked the whole way through, like dodging all this dodging all this stupid shit. But if you think about it too, in Mario, like you're dodging all the shit, trying not to die, but you're also like getting mushrooms, powering up, like getting special powers and stuff, and then like you make it to the end. And
That's true. Doesn't feel like that at the time though, does it?
no.
Like, because the power up doesn't feel the way that you think it's going to.
No,
At least
because
in
you're
my,
still,
sometimes it does,
yeah, but
but
I
there's a
would
lot
say
of times.
like you're still in the thing. Like
Yep.
you haven't reached the thing where you get your flag, where you go back to our first episode, give yourself a gold star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ugh.
We're doing a great fucking job.
We really are. I like that we are able to tell each other that a lot. Because I need to hear it all the time.
Same, same. And before we end this, just
Yes.
real quick, I want to say that the other day I made a huge connection to this exact thing of like Chloe was sitting on the couch
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't in like a loaf position, but she was
Mm-hmm.
almost there. Like she had these great like front nubs that were
Yeah.
out, like
I love that front tuck.
perfect. Um, and we're just walking past her, right? And you would just look over and like, oh my God, Chloe, you're perfect. Like you're doing such a good job. We tell the cats they're doing a good job all the time. Literally, like they'll be laying there. She'll have like one arm out and I'll be like, that is a
Oh.
great arm. You're doing such a great job. And I stopped dead in my tracks when I said that, looked at my partner, and I was like, holy fucking shit. This is what
Mm-hmm.
we tell the cats all the time, just for existing, that
Yep.
you are perfect and amazing and doing a great job. I was like, we should be telling each other that just because like we've been going through a lot of hard stuff around here. And I was like, we're doing a great job. And I keep saying that out loud, but I think that I wasn't feeling it in the same way as like I was telling it to my cat and like really
Yes.
believing it. And
Mm-hmm.
I it like took that for me to
Yes.
then be like, oh, I'm missing that whole like feeling and actually like believing in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I can look at her and tell her she's perfect and amazing and doing a great job for existing. And I'm telling myself that, but like now I think that gave me a bit of like feeling behind it that I can actually start like believing it.
Yes. Now you know what it feels like in your body to
Yeah.
believe that about another being
Yeah.
that should be celebrated for being.
Mm-hmm.
Cats are such wise teachers.
They are
We're so lucky to have them.
so lucky. So lucky.